we operate on a framework of sales, right? So it's not just, hey, here's my personality, I'm really good. Everything's based on the psychology, everything's based on the processes, everything's based on the predecessor, really everything that needs to go through in each and every presentation.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
Number 3, this is the third part, very important here. It's the next part of the frame that I got to make sure that I'm aware of. They kind of mix a little bit, but I want you guys to understand it. The next piece here is conditions. What do you think that means? Conditions.
For setting a frame?
It can be anything, right? This is also in phone calls, appointments, buyer seller appointments, in the property, in the office. It could be also showing property. This could also be home inspection issues, whatever it is, tough phone calls. I got to understand under what conditions am I having this call? Under what conditions am I having this meeting? This is very important. What do you think this is important? Where I preach it to you guys all the time. Where does this mean the most? Where does this matter? But
and knowing the lead source.
Yes. I need to know what are the conditions that this is happening in. So if I'm looking with the buyer, I want to understand where they come from, what website they come from, what was our search patterns, what do they search, what do they type in, right? What website did they use? Did they use Google versus AOL versus something else? Understand their mindset. So understand what are the conditions of the consumer coming into this meeting, right? Let's say it's a first time or it's a lead. I want to understand if they're calling off a for sale sign, or if they're calling off a Craigslist, or they're calling off of a Zillow, right? Or whatever it is. I want to understand the mindset of who they are and what they are. Why does that matter, you think?
Helps you navigate the waters.
I understand their mindset, understand the psychology of that buyer or that seller, right? They're a buyer who comes through our branded site. They're going to be much more likely to want to already be pre-framed on you and be much more pre-sold. If they're a seller who comes through our pre-marketing, right, versus an online home evaluation that's unbranded, they're two different types of sellers. And so I got to make sure I understand, look, I've got to be able to understand the difference between the two. And I have to understand that data up front. And that comes from me asking the right questions to myself, right? Hey, look, what's the deal? What's the conditions here about this person, guy or girl, right? Who is this guy? Who is this lady, right? What do they do? Where do they come from? How long they've been searching? And I want to understand their conditions once I meet with them through questions. So I start asking that in my discovery, meaning that I have to go to a deep discovery, right? So different things. What's the data on this person? I want you guys to write that down as a key part. What's the data? Now, there's two types of data. There's data that I have from the website, right? Or the inside salesperson. And there's data I gather when I'm there with them in that scenario, right? In the discovery, so to speak. And I want to use that data to understand, here's the conditions of this consumer in this part of this process of where we are in the whole home sale or home purchase process, right? And that really comes down looking to what they're paying, what's happening, what's been going on, right? I want to find out the information of who is this person, what are they looking to do, what have they been doing, and really what matters the most with them in that scenario. Does that make sense to you guys there? I think that's very, very important to understand. This could also be true in what? A tough conversation, the phone call, the home inspection aspect, right? Having to make something about, hey, look, lender needs this or they need that, right? You want to make sure, okay, what's the conditions of the scenario? Hey, here's this home inspection issue. It's 40-some pages, whatever it is. Did I pre-frame them? What are their mindset coming into this, right? How they looked over it. Perfect example. I don't send a home inspection to them and then just let them sit there and mull on it for a little bit, right? I got to make sure I pre-frame them. Hey, look, no big deal. Here's what we came back. A few things that are minor, one or two major ones. I'm sending it to you right now. Let's go over it together. The last thing I want them to do is go through that themselves, read it, get terrified about it, and then all of a sudden simmer on it for about 12 hours before I call them. That makes sense? Very, very, very important to understand that. This could also go into the piece of right now with the market conditions, right? That same agent, I think the people want to make an offer on the property. This is on one of the days. Agent said, yeah, I'll get you the offer. Agent went home, didn't write the offer. They wanted to go to dinner with their mom, They came back the next morning, took time. They finally wrote the offer up the next afternoon. And guess what happened? Property's already sold, right? So understanding conditions of market matter, conditions of my client, but ultimately this is the mindset of my clients coming in here. But this framework here, this frame drawing works for anything. And I want to check myself at all these layers because I have to have all the layers of the cake, so to speak, for it to actually make sense for me in that scenario. Does that make sense? So number one, discipline, right? Number two is intention. Number three is conditions. Number four, the next piece here. Number four is the way. What do you think that means, the way?
Like, let me show you the way.
So in a way, yes. What else do you think?
Guiding them.
This way part is for me right here, mostly. So give me, what else do you think that would be? There's multiple ways to look at this, but the most important one I want
How
you
I'm
to do.
gonna reach the outcome.
Yes. I have to understand in my head, right? The strategy for me is how will I get to the outcome? So for example, if I'm in the buyer presentation and I know the discipline, if I've done everything right in the front end, everything's handled clearly, my energy's good, right? I have the clear intention, I know what I'm trying to do here. I understand the conditions, understand the data, what I got to do with the data.
Put it into use.
I have to be very good at taking the data and calculate the data to my strategy to make sure that I'm able to get the outcome I want. And so the question to myself here is, how will I get to my outcome? And what that means is, so let's say I understand the data conditions in a buyer presentation, right? And I'm going through the buyer presentations and we're going through discovery and I find out they had a bad experience with their agent. They had all this other stuff happen previously. One sister's in, one sister's not in, right? I understand these things, what I got to do. Then I got to understand, okay, here's how I tie the conditions, aka the data, to my process to help get the outcome I want. But I've got to be very strategic in how I operate, meaning that every close has a purpose, right? Every word I say has a purpose, and I have to make sure I go extra deep in checking the boxes. And so what that means is my strategy's got to be a little different. That I'm going to make adjustments on the fly in the presentation, both in the listing presentation and the buyer presentation, to know what boxes I have to hit that are the most important to help me get to what? The outcome I need. Are you guys with me on this? Very, very important. I gotta understand how will they land and where will they land at the end of this presentation. So I'm guiding. If I feel there's some disconnect here, what do? I gotta basically commit in a way to make sure I can get them back in the game. I notice a lot of times downstairs in the conference room when I've had a couple people are newer, sometimes I'll have that where one person's into you and the other person's sitting further back and they're on their phone. What does that mean?
They're not paying attention to you.
They're disconnected, right? So I got to bring them back in. And so how I operate in this piece here, this part is what we call your art. Your art. What do you think that means? My art.
How good are you articulating the outcome and showing the steps?
Yes, this is me articulating through presentation, especially, right? The way that my words flow, my tonality, my speed, my pace, all these things matter, and they're tied together as my art in terms of how the client sees and feels how I'm sharing with them, obviously, the problem, the possibility, and the ultimate outcome that we're gonna get to, right? And so it's very important for me to understand that and say, look, what is the way of your communication that's gonna help them understand what they need to understand about you in this scenario? This could be the same thing in the home inspection issue. This could be anything from pricing for my listings. It has to do with what's my art and how good am I at my art. And the one way for me to get good at my art is to do what?
Practice your art.
Practice it, number one, through reps, right? Going reps and reps and reps. And what else?
Recording.
Recording, going back and listening to it, right? I'm not really sure what my art's worth unless I go back, understand, look at the data, understand, okay, here's what happened. Here's what they said, here's what I said, and I get some feedback from other people too. Hey, look, what I do here, what's different, what needs to change, right? Which I think is very, very, very important to make sure I'm able to do.
You would also need some discipline, or is that number one on that one?
Yeah, which is why it's the what?
Number one.
Outside frame. Number one, everything is built and made on discipline in this business, especially with our sales system, which is really we operate on a framework of sales, right? So it's not just, hey, here's my personality, I'm really good. Everything's based on the psychology, everything's based on the processes, everything's based on the predecessor, really everything that needs to go through in each and every presentation. All the way to the pre-frames of how I'm at properties, right? All these things matter. This art could also be what? How I'm showing the property. How am I connected to the property? How am I connecting with the client in the house? How am I helping them see this is their place to be for the final, okay, I guess the final piece of ownership of them actually buying it. And so I got to make sure I understand, look, I have to have these key pieces here They're allowing me to get where I need to go. And then I'm always reverse engineering it based on the last piece here, which is what we have. And the last piece of the frame here is very important, and it's the outcome. Everything's based on outcome. And so what I'm teaching here to you guys, and what this is really, is a framework. What do you think a framework means in this scenario? What's a framework mean in this scenario from a sales standpoint?
State of mind.
I think it's moving someone else closer to what you want out of the outcome, to the goal.
So this whole thing is designed as one thing. It's a recipe for you guys and anybody to get to the result they want at the end every single time. Whether it be in my phone call, the initial lead call, right? It must be my presentation face-to-face, which is where a lot of this really comes into. The key pieces here are both the presentation and in the property. Same thing with listings, right? The presentation, everything's made or broken on that. Then also there's a piece after that, which has to do with pricing, price reductions, offer negotiation, all that stuff. And the same thing on the buyer side, right? The work really starts once I make the presentation, have them sign. The key is, how do I get them to go through all this part? So every time I have a meeting with them, what I got to have? Let's see where I signed them last week. We're showing properties today. I'm meeting them at the property. Let's say I'm meeting at a property, right? Today, what I do, I have my discipline, meaning I print all my comps out or my sheets out before I get there. Everything's clear. I have my copy, right? I have a copy to give them whatever they need in that scenario. I know exactly what properties I'm going in and what times and what order. I've taken time to get clear on it. I'm there early before them, ready to go. If I'm meeting them, right? Everything's clear. If they're coming here, what am I doing? I'm at the office. I'm downstairs waiting on them early, ready to go. So we have the power, the energy, right? I have the discipline. Everything's ready to go in that scenario. Number two, I have the clear intention, right? Of what our goal is. Looking property, look at these properties today. You know, we're looking at these 4 properties. I'm going to pre-frame them a little bit on it. Hey, look, I want you guys to find the one. I have one goal today for you guys to find the home that works best for you. If you find the one that you like, you tell me immediately. We'll pull the trigger. Anything you don't like, you tell me instantly. But our number one goal today is to find the property that fits for you guys. We got to pull that trigger immediately, right? So I'm setting the intention for them too. Make sure that I think a lot of people make a mistake of not setting a clear intention for their buyers. Then their buyers just want to look at properties. And so if I have the intention that's unset of just looking at properties, what do? We just look at properties and don't buy. So I want to set the intention. Hey, look, Mr. and Ms. Buyer, hey, look, got everything prepped for you guys, ready to go. Super excited. I think you'll love these houses, but you may not. So the most important thing what we're looking to do today is find the home that you guys love, and we got to find that home and pull the trigger quickly, right? So I'm pre-framing them, setting their intention too, that we're here to buy today. We're not here just to look, right? Very, very important to understand it. Number 3, I got to make sure I understand what the conditions are. So if I have buyers I've met with them before, is this the first time we're showing properties? Have we looked at other properties before? What data do I have on them previously? What's their previous ways looking at properties? Whatever it is, all those things matter, and it'll be different, right? Maybe a different scenario if I'm meeting them the first time at a property. I need to know, what's the lead source? What was the conversation like with inside sales? Where did they call from? What are they looking to do? How long they've been looking? I'm trying to figure these pieces out as we go, then I make that decision there on that piece. If I'm with a listing, right? What I got to understand the conditions. How many agents have they talked to? Was it listed prior? Was there previous experience with agents? Are they talking to anybody else? Is there another appointment? So I got to use that data, because that data, the intention and the condition is going to really help me understand how to maximize the value of what? My art, right? And the art's where all the money's made. Just like art I buy or sell, some art you can't sell for $5. Some art, same size, same colors, you can sell for $5 million. And so what you got to understand is that I'm an artist in terms of sales. I've got to maximize my skill set in terms of being able to put these words together in the right way so that my buyer and their psychology understand the importance of what I'm saying and believe and like and trust my advice. And so I use this constantly to help gauge where I'm at. And so take the drawing and keep the drawing so I can make sure I'm always focused on what? The outcome. Here's what has to happen. Here's how we get there. Our finish line is getting to the closing table. I can't wait to get you guys there. Part of that piece is helping them know, look, I do this all the time. Help my clients all the time. Here's some other, examples of happy clients of mine. Whatever it is, we're able to get them in there and help them say, I can get you where you need to be because I have the experience, I have the skill set, and I can help you guys get to that finish line that we're looking to get to, aka the outcome. Now, I've used this example in the past, right? when I used to teach in the big room, and I'd say, look, Mr. and Mrs., buyer, I just want you guys to know that, look, I'm here to help serve you. I care about one thing. I care about your outcome. I care about you, right? And have that conversation with them that makes the biggest difference there. That.